everyone, welcome to the second episode of Debi Talks, the podcast where we as media students watch and analyze some media clips and break them down from our somewhat unique perspective. This week we all brought music videos to review, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm Ezra.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Braden.
I'm Isaiah.
And we're Debi Talks.
If you would like to check out any of the music videos we discussed throughout this episode, feel free to check the description below if you're watching on YouTube, or check the embedded links if you're watching on our website. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Debi Talks.
We're going to be starting with my music video, and I brought Hyberballad by Bjork. I've always been drawn to and loved Bjork music videos since I was young because of how unique, trippy, and colorful they are. My mom was always a really big Bjork fan growing up, and I have vivid memories of her and I watching her music videos on the big screen, and they just always really stuck with me.
So I'm actually approaching this from a completely opposite perspective, where I've actually never seen any of her work or heard any of her music before. So this was kind of a first look for me, and it definitely caught me off guard. The sound was so different. It kind of took me a second to adjust to it, to where at first, I'll be honest, when I heard it, I was like, I don't like this at all. And the visuals kind of like caught me off guard. But I watched it a couple times, and after like the second time, I was like, okay, I kind of dig this. Let me rewatch it again. And the effects really stood out to me. I really enjoyed the effects because they were in a way simple, but at the same time, really hectic, really chaotic, which I think plays into the theme of the song really, really well. So I think overall, I love the visuals, and I like what they did for the song, which in itself was kind of like a trip to listen to.
It's interesting that this is your exposure to Bjork. I'm surface level familiar. I hadn't seen this music video before, so I guess I'm kind of in the middle of y'all's perspectives, but I understand your initial hesitancy. Her lyrics and voice that she sings with is rather unique. It sounds kind of foreign, I guess, to an initial American ear, but I agree with you. I really like the glitch, trippy visuals and sounds that she has going on. It really leans into this late 90s, early 2000s aesthetic that I think adds a lot of substance to it.
One of the most striking aspects of Hyberballad is innovative use of electronic elements. The track opens with a steady percussive beat that builds gradually, setting the stage for bjork, hauntingly beautiful vocals. The juxtaposition of the mechanical sounds with organic vocal delivery creates a unique auditory atmosphere, allowing listeners to feel both grounded and transported. This production style reflects Bjork's pioneering approach to music, pushing the boundaries of genre and sound.
Obviously, this is a pretty old video, so it's not very HD or super perfect and polished, but I think the messiness and somewhat imperfections add to the emotional tone of the video. There's lots of layering, pixelation, and trippy effects, and a lot of the times it looks kind of glitchy, but I think it looks good and it seems to be on purpose. The imperfections make this feel more raw and emotional, especially with the song as emotional as this. This video was directed by Michel Gondry, I want to say, who is known for making lots of weird, dreamy visuals, such as this one. He also has directed for Daft Punk, The White Stripes, and The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I can see the similarities.
Eternal Sunshine is similarly one of my all-time romance films and one of my all-time science fiction films. It's just a really great one, and Michel Gondry, through his creative work, shows this really interesting take on human relationships, on inner turmoil, and exploring those lenses through sci-fi. The narrative, of course, of Eternal Sunshine it's tied into the science fiction film, but the music video that we have here just uses these visuals of cell phone towers, of digital thoughts while this woman is sleeping, invoking the lyrics of "Is she alive? Is she dead?" I think it's really cool, and it, like what you mentioned previously, it really leans into this early glitch trip hop aesthetic that adds a lot of substance.
I'm curious whether or not if this was made today with a cleaner style that we're kind of used to now, with improvements to special effects and post-production work, as opposed to doing it the way that they did this in the late 90s. I'd be curious if it still held up with the same charm, where I really don't think it is. It kind of is like you watch old 90s movies and there's just some kind of charm about it that you can't quite put your finger on. I feel like this video kind of falls in that same category of you watch it and kind of like you said, the roughness, the rawness of it, of the edits and stuff really just add to the music video as a whole. And I actually really liked it. It was a good choice.
So for my clip this week, I brought Matilda by Pup. Pup is a band that I've only really found in the last couple years in my time as a college student, but I've always grown up loving punk rock music, and the narrative of this music video has just always hit me really close to home, of growing out of material items or relationships and then finding a new role for that thing later in life, for a newfound appreciation. It's evergreen message to me.
As someone who's extremely materialistic, I actually found myself enjoying this way too much. What I really enjoyed was that they took just a small portion of the very beginning of this music video to set this story of this guitar and what exactly is happening with it. So that way, when they start introducing this shop of all of these items, you naturally, because you were just shown this visual, associate now unknown stories with everything you're seeing. And it kind of just really, really hits you with this nostalgic feeling of all of these items that you maybe once had back in the day that all of a sudden are springing into your mind. And you're like, wow, I wonder whatever happened to that one teddy bear I had when I was 6 years old. And so I love it. I love the nostalgic. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So I thoroughly enjoyed the story they were kind of giving throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I actually ended up really liking this music video. I wouldn't say that I'm materialistic, but I do find value in a lot of my materials, even if they're not valuable at all. And seeing this music video from the perspective of the guitar is a very unique perspective. And it made me feel things that I wasn't expecting to feel. And I was feeling like sad and hurt over this guitar being like passed on, gifted, trashed, and sold. It was making me feel all these certain things for an inanimate object. And I think that's a really unique perspective. And it did make me think about all the things that I've given away, and that's why I don't like to give things away, is because I feel like I'm hurting the object's feelings.
I'm glad that it really emotionally resonated with y'all. I especially love the use of warm and cool color palettes to show the state of their relationship, the memories of a very cold present with warm, like you said, a warm, nostalgic look at whenever we first picked up the guitar. But then also the ending is just this beautiful celebration. The lighting just all comes together. It's not really one or the other, but just this really cool set piece.
One of the song's most notable elements is narrative structure. Matilda tells the story of someone reflecting on the impact of a friend's struggles and the emotional weight it carries. The lyrics are introspective, exploring themes of loss, support, and the desire to help someone who is going through difficult times. The storytelling aspect creates a sense of intimacy as it speaks to the universal experience of wanting to be there for someone you care about, even when it feels hopeless.
And you're 100% right, because most of the lyrics, it kind of just comes off of the perspective of like a stilted lover, of like, oh, that I'm really upset that this person doesn't want me in their life anymore. I'm screaming, I'm trying anything to just be heard or to be there, and they just want nothing to do with me. And I think that, yeah, the framing that relationship through a material object, it adds a lot of emotional poignancy there.
I also love how good of an example this is of how much value a music video can add to a song itself. Because if I heard this song by itself, I would have no clue what it was really for. I would think it was like a breakup song or some kind. But watching the music video and seeing it from this different perspective brings a whole new story. It shows that storytelling in creative media doesn't always have to be literal. You can use metaphors, objects, humor, etc., all the above, to tell a story, and even a deep story, and have it feel less dramatic or have it connect to you in a different way.
Yeah, and one of the things that were brought up as well was that climactic chorus at the very, very end. I really liked visually what they did when they had all of the toys come to life, the lights spring to life. It was this really joyous occasion that the guitar was being like, the life cycle continued with this guitar, and it was a celebratory moment, and it really worked because of this very loud climactic chorus that was just like way bigger than anything else throughout the entire song. And I think visually like worked so well. I really enjoyed that part. That ending climax was really fun.
I'm glad the narrative really stuck out to you. It's a standout for me as well.
So we're going to do something just slightly different for this last video because it's actually my own that I did for a college project here at Tech. It is called 15. I made it with 2 classmates. I directed and edited the entire thing. So we're going to take a look at this one. These guys will give some critiques and then I'll answer some questions on the actual production and how everything went down. So let's do that.
What it is. Came in the game like I'm 15. Check all the numbers. Ball in this game like I'm 15.
I love this video. Daniel knows I love this video. I have this song stuck in my head all the time, but he showed it to me last semester and he wouldn't show it to me again. So watching it back, I realized how good of quality this video actually is, and the shots are really good. I really love the opening shot of the Mahomes statue. I don't even know how you made it to the point where it looked like it was floating. So that's what I want to ask too. How did you do that for our young listeners?
So the intro clip she is referring to is just a kind of zoom in pan shot of a Mahomes bust that's just sitting on the floor, which was actually just done in my garage with the settings turned in a way where kind of the background was just kind of faded to black. So it kind of gives the illusion it's in like just a room or like an open warehouse. And then as far as the smoothness of the zoom in, that was just at least 50 takes of myself duck walking it forward with a hand kind of a grip to smooth it out. And then just some post-production tricks of stabilizing it, zooming it, trying to get it as clean as possible. And it was basically just me messing with 50 different clips, trying to find the smoothest one I could possibly physically pull out.
So first, I have to ask, what is your stage name?
If you can potentially still find any music under my name. If I haven't found a way to delete it already, it would be under Colette. That would be what any music I had ever made would be under. I have done a very meticulous job of scrubbing it from the internet. However, I'm sure I've missed some. So if I have, it would probably be under Colette.
Well, shout out Colette. I've got some deep digging to do after this episode, but I was really impressed. I mean, like, I thought that the hook was a little repetitive, but y'all's verses were crazy. I was impressed by the energy of all your shots. There was this one where, I mean, you do the effect a couple times where it's you and one other guy in the video, but 3 of y'all pop up like a shadow jutsu effect. How did you pull that off?
So that is just some post-production work in After Effects. It is basically the use of rotoscoping. If you don't know rotoscoping in After Effects, it is basically cutting out something from the foreground and making a mask of it to where it's only following that one object. In this case, it was the other guy who was in the video. I rotoscoped him, and through AI, it basically kept the mask going throughout the entire clip, and I would duplicate it 2 times, and I would set it to where in the middle of his verse, they would spread out and create this shadow clone jutsu effect, and it would play for a few seconds, and then after a while, they would kind of seam back into itself, almost like he's bringing his clones back into himself, and that's basically how it all worked. It was all After Effects and some rotoscoping work.
So I know you're not duplicating it, but is it a similar rotoscope effect? Is that how you do the match transition of yourself later in the video?
Yeah, almost all of those kinds of effects would be done with rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is like such an underrated aspect of anything. You can do a lot with it. Even later in the video, there is a small section where like $signs scroll down on the wall behind us. That's actually also rotoscoping, where we cut out both of ourselves, and that way the $sign stayed behind us while also appearing on the wall. That's also rotoscoping. It's pretty versatile. It's a pretty versatile tool in After Effects.
I overlooked the $sign effect at the end. I'll have to keep my eye out for that next time I check it out.
I like how the production often incorporates that captures the listener's attention. The infusion of various music genres, including elements of rap, rock, and electronic music, reflects a willingness to push boundaries and explore new auditory experiences. This can resonate with diverse audiences, appealing to those who appreciate genre-blurring compositions.
I think that's really cool that you were able to pick up all of those things audibly, and I'm glad you enjoyed musically what I was able to bring as well.
I also really enjoyed the random storytelling within this music video as well. I love the little excerpt or insert, I want to say, of you guys kind of going back and forth about what to wear, and then he's like all like talking mess about your little fur coat, and then he's like, you think I'm gonna wear that? And then he ends up wearing it.
Look, but I brought one for you. And you think I'm gonna wear this? You're not?
I love excerpts of music videos with the little like storytelling. I love that. Also, I love that y'all are making fried chicken, I want to say. It's kind of random. I would like to know your creative thought process behind that and why you decided to make fried chicken for this video.
So the actual prompt of the project was, technically it was a parody video. That is technically what we were supposed to do. So we actually chose Life is Good by Drake and Future. And if you've seen that video, there's actually a shot of them in a kitchen. I think they're making pastries or cakes. And we obviously had to make a parody of it. So one of the scenes we decided to make a parody of that we could do ourselves was cooking. We obviously aren't bakers. I don't know how to make a cake, but I know how to make fried chicken. So that was the next best thing. And I was like, you know what? We can show clips of us, battering these chickens, frying them. It would be funny. I think it would be hilarious. I think it turned out pretty funny. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, a lot of it, I think if you rewatch it, understanding it's a parody of Life is Good, a few of the scenes make more sense.
And I was honestly really impressed as to how the comedy actually landed. I know that this was just like what she said was an excerpt in the video, but I typically hate whenever hip hop albums will stop for a skit between songs. I typically always skip it. I typically don't think it's really funny at all and that it's a waste of my time. But the comedy here was actually really funny. And of course, it was in the middle of the song, but the writing, your delivery back and forth, and then the cut at the end, I thought was just really funny. It worked a lot better than I ever thought it should have on paper. Very few rappers like Kanye West, like 20 plus years ago, does like successful comedy skits on albums.
I'm glad you complimented our writing because that's non-existent. There is no writing. There was no writing. It was 100% just turn on the camera and we'll figure out what to say. It actually turned into a game where I would just try to break him every chance I got. I wanted to just make him laugh literally as much as humanly possible. And it's actually where the cut happened wasn't because we thought that would be a good cut. It was actually just because he started laughing right after that, because I don't remember what I said, but I said something and it made him break. And we basically had 30 minutes of, man, I got to keep one of these. Let's just see what this cut would look like. And it turned out really well. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was 100% an accident that was from a string of bloopers.
It's funny that none of that was planned and none of it was scripted, because even the end, when like the camera kind of falls, the next cut is a perfect transition into when you're in the parking lot. It's like a perfect transition. It goes like
If it's the one I'm thinking of, there is a transition that was on purpose. And it was one where he kind of slaps the camera into the air. That's actually an immediate transition. So when it comes back down, I'm in the parking lot. That was intentional. Those you have to pre-plan. Those have to be pre-planned. Although I'm not too vocal and proud about the fact that I make music, I am pretty proud of what we were able to do in such a short span of time and with little experience from the other guys. The two guys who helped me with this video didn't have very much experience in doing these kinds of things at all. And I was pretty impressed with the way that they carried themselves and their willingness to kind of try these weird things and attempt to be rappers for a semester. I really appreciated that. And I am proud of what we were able to accomplish and the things that we were able to do. And I'm glad that when you guys watch them, you're not as nitpicky as I am about what's good and what's not. So I'm glad it can be appreciated. And overall, I am proud of what we were able to do with this thing. And so I'm glad everybody got to enjoy it.
Period. I think we're always our biggest critics, but sometimes it's important to be proud of ourselves and acknowledge that we're good at what we do. And sometimes we create good things.
You should take pride in this video. And yes, like it's a college video. It's where you were at this point of your journey with production work, but it is quality and it does speak for where you were at that time. I don't think that you should dismiss this by any means. It continues to entertain and we all had a great time sitting here watching it.
My living room is like a coliseum and they talk about all that hard work, but when it came time and I'll hardly see them.
And that was this month's episode where we talked about some of our favorite music videos. Be sure to join us on our next episode where we review some of our favorite commercials. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media. That's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and our website. All of our information will be linked in the description below if you're listening to us on YouTube. This is Debi Talks.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Ezra.
I'm Braden.
I'm Isaiah.
And thank you for joining us. We hope you tune in to our next episode.
Bye.